If you think me flipping my talit is annoying for you, every week I have to go into the auto-recorded video and cut out my sermon and watch myself flip it every single time. Never watch yourself on video that much. It's just disturbing. But would you like to see a magic trick? Does anyone ever say no to that? Behold, the crystal orb. The crystal orb which I can control with but a mere thought and the magnetic force of my personality. Watch. I threw it away and called it to a stop in midair and summoned it back to my hand. Was that too quick? Thank you. Please join us for the Kiddush lunch. It seems to me that not everybody is buying this as being much of a magic trick. Jonah, is that you behind the mask? Gravity? Gravity? Whoa. What makes you think? What makes you think that's what's going on rather than my explanation? Why do you think that's what I'm doing as opposed to my own forceful magnetism of personality summoning it back to my hand? Who brought this child? And that is very loving of you to take credit. Now, Jonah, you are absolutely right that gravity is a much better explanation for what's going on in this situation than my own magic personality. However, gravity doesn't quite answer it. How many of you understand gravity any more than you understand magic? Who would like to explain why gravity actually happens? I'm not talking about the inverse square law. I'm not talking about, the rate of acceleration. I mean, why is gravity a feature of our universe? God made it so. Well, it is actually quite hard. And indeed, the physicists of today are no longer worried about the particular calculations that bothered Newton to come up with gravity as a theoretical and mathematical construct. They're worried about exactly why matter is matter at all and why it has a property which makes the phenomenon that we call gravity actually happen. And it is a big head scratcher, because it's easy to sit down and measure the effects of the acceleration of a ball falling towards Earth. It's much harder to figure out why that seems to be a property of the universe at all. And yet, we take gravity for granted. Despite this incredible complexity, all of you were perfectly ready, but only a couple of them had the courage to tell me that I wasn't doing magic, it was doing gravity, even if you didn't entirely understand the theoretical physics underpinning behind gravity itself, because even the theoretical physicists don't fully understand it. Which means I get to ask you the follow-up question. What are you doing here? The ball is accelerating towards the Earth according to the gravitational constant. What are you doing right now? Now, theoretically, yes, I know, and please don't be smart, you are also accelerating towards the Earth according to the same constant. I mean, this whole activity that we are doing in this room, this service, what are you doing here? Obeying the laws of gravity. Well, I think we've chosen to be in this place for some other reason than to obey the laws of gravity. As much as I wish that the sanctuary could be a gravitational force that would attract you all here every week, and that you would feel that pull as hard as you feel the pull of the Earth beneath your feet, I think that the state of Florida would condemn us if we created a small black hole. So, something else brought you here, some other purpose, something else that you are achieving by being here, or at least you believe that you are achieving by being here.
Community with God and the community and
Thank you. She's not on the payroll. She's communing with God, communing with the community, having this experience that we have here. Yes? Celebrating the force that brings us together, which is really a much more meta understanding of gravity and gets into the realm of the divine. Faith. We are faithing while we are here. Is faith a verb? It's actually a harder question than you might think, and it's one that our ancestors have struggled with for a few thousand years. And in general, you can divide the answers, detailed though each path might be, into two rough camps. Camp number one says that what you are doing here is you are committing deeds. You are making actions happen, and you are a warrior in the cosmic plane. That you're not sitting in chairs, you're not reading books, that with each deed that you perform, each mitzvah that you create in this world, you are rectifying a world that has been broken ever since the moment of creation. The narrative goes very simplified, something like this, that when God tried to infuse the world with the divine essence, it turns out that the material world could not properly contain all of God's spirit, and it fractured, sending shards of God's divine essence into the grunge of the world, into what are called klipot, the shells of the material, and that when we engage in mitzvot, when we engage in the particular acts that the Torah has commanded us to perform, that we are mightily stripping off that grunge of the material world to allow the sparks of holiness to not only be witnessed, but to return to the fullness of the Godhead, in order that eventually creation will be made as perfectly holy as it should have been at the beginning, if only the material world had been able to contain it. And at that point, redemption will come. In this theory, this model, this way of looking at what we are doing, each and every action is an additional giving of this release to the world. Each and every deed is significant in and of itself, because until every single thing has been stripped of the grungy material covering, redemption will never happen. And so you, by choosing to engage in tefillah, engage in study, you are a mighty warrior upon this cosmic battlefield, going through the motions of defeating the illusions of the material world and setting the world free. Then there is camp number two. And camp number two says, no. When you engage in the mitzvot, when you engage in prayer, when you engage in and study, when you engage in the mitzvot, whether it be lighting candles or giving tzedakah, being honest in business, or being a righteous person to your family, you are trying to become a good person. Or, I'll be kinder, a better person, presuming that you're already good. That's it. No cosmic battlefield. You're not striding among the angels, rectifying the errors of creation. There's no mystical energy that's being released by your mystical interaction with the with the blessings of our people. But God gave us the Torah not to fix the mistake of creation, but God gave us the Torah so that we could fix the mistakes of ourselves. That's it. It's a little anticlimactic, isn't it? I mean, who doesn't want to be the hero of the animated special with, big angel wings and a giant sword and shield in defense of God and shattering all of the illusions and darkness of the world? We'd go to see that movie, but I'm not sure we'd go to see the other movie. The other one seems a little insignificant. I mean, after all, how important is it that I be a little better today than I was yesterday? Is that really on the same scale as the cosmic importance of rectifying an error of creation? Well, yes, for a couple of reasons. One, first and foremost, model number one, the idea of the cosmic battle, cheapens human life. I know they don't put that on the ad. It's not said in a giant banner when you are participating in this type of model, but it cheapens human life because you become merely an instrument, a tool, a shovel, a rake, a backhoe, perhaps if you're big and strong spiritually, for fixing this problem. Your own existence has no purpose other than to fix the cosmos. That's your job. You are but a servant trying to fix this mess up within the fabric of creation itself. And how good you get at it, how good you are yourself as a person is immaterial. A completely rotten and terrible person can do something good, and it counts. And a completely righteous and good person can do something good, and it counts the same. It counts the count in order to crack open that shell, let out that spark. If you do it, you do it. If you don't, you don't. And quite frankly, what it does for you is beside the point. Where you come out at the end of this process doesn't actually matter in model number 1. Sure, the people who propose this want you to feel good about what you're doing, to get that dopamine hit of checking something off the to-do list, because then you'll do more of it, which will contribute to the ultimate redemption of the world in which they're hoping to cash in. But ultimately, where you are at the end of this process is much less important than where the universe is at the end of the process. Whereas those who support model number 2, and you might be able to guess I'm more on that side, those who support model number 2 say, no, God can take care of the universe. God made it after all, and the audacity to believe that God somehow messed up when making the universe and caused fractures is a little bit chutzpahdik. God can take care of the universe, but there is one thing in the universe that God cannot change. You. God can't change you. God can change gravity. God can change the laws of light. God can change the laws of anything else in the natural world. But God can't change you, because to change you would be to undo the entire reason for creating a physical existence in the first place, which is to allow your soul a place to choose its path in order that it can enrich itself and grow through those experiences, those choices, and the increasingness of its own holiness by having made those choices. And if God does that for you, if God takes away your free will and just makes you who you're going to be, turns you into an object rather than a human soul, well, then that defeats the entire purpose. It would be like inviting people to come and give their opinions in a focus group and then handing everybody a script. Well, I'm sorry, that's not what a focus group is. If you want to hear my opinion, don't tell me what it's going to be. If you want me to have a better opinion, help me learn how to have that opinion. Don't tell me I just have to parrot what you have told me to say. So when we gather for a service, when we engage in the mitzvot, again, whether it be lighting candles, saying kiddush, whether it be giving tzedakah, whether it be helping the old lady across the street, whether it be not cheating, you are changing yourself. You are making yourself closer to the ideal that God knows you can be. You are becoming the person that you are supposed to be, but which God cannot force you to be. And that accomplishment is the ultimate reason for there being a world and for there being a you. And it cannot be offloaded. You can't ask someone else to do this for you. Model number 1, you can pay someone else to say prayers on your behalf. You can pay someone else to say Kaddish on your behalf, to light a candle on your behalf, and all those other types of things. Because after all, if the deed is done, then that's what's important. But in model number 2, I'm sorry, you can't get a substitute. You are intrinsically valuable in and of yourself, and there is no one who can take your place in making you who you are supposed to be and who you are capable of being. And that's a little terrifying, quite frankly, because it means if I don't get me right, no one else will. And this is one of the reasons why, over the course of history, as society has become scarier and more complicated, more and more people, not only within our own faith tradition, but in other faith traditions around the world, have gone to what is often called devotional faiths, as opposed to demanding faiths, where just doing the right ritual and engaging in the right feelings is good enough. Because, That seems doable. Judaism said no. You are going to be a nation of priests. You are all going to have the highest level of responsibility because each one of you is essential to God's plan. And each one of you are responsible for you. God can't do it to you or for you. He can give us instruction, Torah. He can give us a community to lift us up and guide us, what we have here in our Kehillah of Temple Israel. He can give you encouragement by helping you to see glimpses and glimmers of what the world and yourself have to offer. But ultimately, each action, each deed is up to you. And God is more interested in you being a good person than the good deeds that you do. And that may sound heretical, but let me just repeat it so that you don't think I made a mistake. Judaism is about being a good person, not about doing good deeds. The good deeds are a method for you to be a good person. They are not a method for fixing the world and universe. Yes, that's a byproduct, and quite a good one, quite honestly. And it would be shocking if being a good person did not lead to a better world and community. But ultimately, the true purpose of Torah was not that the world around us would be perfected, but that you would be perfected. And then the world would be much better from having people like you in it. Don't sell yourself short. Don't sell your own place in this world short. You are not a mere instrument of someone else's cosmic battle. You are not their sword or shield. And you owe nothing to the universe, but you owe it to yourself. To hear the call of Judaism, to hear the call of the mitzvot, and to see in them an opportunity to be a little more than you are before you do it. To meditate upon them, to feel that small, subtle shift and change from each step in the right direction. This is all God has asked of us. It's a big ask, but I think we're up to it. Shabbat Shalom.